Hello again. Hopefully you enjoyed making the vegetable curry last week, and I did say that this week we are going to have something a little bit different but also a little bit of a treat. Now what I've decided we're going to try and make is going to be, it's on the porthole for you, a banoffee pie. Now this is a little bit naughty, but I do think it's quite nice to have a little bit of a pick-me-up at the moment and something as a bit of a treat. Now the ingredients that you'll need aren't that difficult to put together. You'll need some digestive biscuits, some bananas, some evaporated milk, some caster sugar, some butter and some double cream. Now we are going to make a caramel today, and there are an easier option, or there is an easier option than making the caramel from the condensed milk and the caster sugar. You can buy, other makes are available, but a carnation ready-made caramel, that is another option. Because when we do make the caramel, it will involve boiling the evaporated milk and adding in that caster sugar. So there's another option for you when you get to that stage. I actually did forget one important thing, the topping. Now I have chosen to put a flake on the top, but you could use other chocolates such as crunchy or something like that to give it a little bit of different texture when you're eating it. Now when it comes to the equipment that you'll need, you will need a set of scales, a tin opener, a mixing bowl, a whisk, a spatula, a saucepan, a green chopping board because it is fruit, and then this is a baking dish for putting cakes in, and it's got a removable bottom. Now that's quite important when we're making this pie, because we're not going to bake it, but we're going to put it in the fridge. You could also use perhaps a flan case, but it is quite difficult to get out of there. So this is the sort of thing I'll be using, and it has that removable base into it. So I'm going to wash my hands and get completely ready to start preparing our banoffee pie. Seems like I'm having one of those days today. I did forget to say something else. You will also need a knife. Now it doesn't have to be a sharp chef's knife or cook's knife, because all we're going to be slicing with it is going to be the banana. And as we all know, bananas are quite soft. So we're going to start now by weighing out the ingredients. So we're going to set the scales to 0 and then get the ingredients ready. As in the recipe that I've put online, we will need 250 grams of digestive biscuits. Now that is around half a pack to 3/4 of a pack, because the pack I've got here is a 400 gram pack. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to start measuring out all the ingredients that we'll need. I'm then going to make the caramel, because the caramel takes quite a while to heat up and then also to cool down, so we can use it on the pie. After we've made the caramel, we are going to then make the biscuit base with the butter, and then we're going to put that in the fridge to also start to harden off and set. Then we'll bring it all together and make our pie. The first ingredient I'm going to weigh out is going to be our digestive biscuits. You can use chocolate digestives, or you might want to use another biscuit such as a hobnob or something like that, and it will just give you a different taste to the base. So I have zeroed it with my small dish. I'll just make sure that's zeroed and it's on grams, and I'm going to measure out 250 grams. Now 118, 205, 248 grams. That's close enough for me. So that's my biscuit sorted. My next ingredient to weigh out is the butter. So it says on the recipe 100 grams, and that will be of melted butter. So I'm going to start by using 2 spoons and just putting some butter into my bowl. 86, 91, 94, oh, it's going to be all that I think, 98 and a smidge more, 101. That's close enough for me. In terms of using the caramel or the evaporated milk, these small carnations are the one that's on the recipe, and that works out at 397 grams. So that's enough to do the cake or the pie. But we're going to use, I'm going to make a caramel from condensed milk and caster sugar. And I'm going to use the whole can of condensed milk. And I'm going to use enough caster sugar. I'm just going to add it slowly and carefully until we make a nice caramel. It's probably going to end up being around 150 to 200 grams of caster sugar. The double cream that I bought actually has an approximate guide on the side. So you wouldn't necessarily need a measuring jug. But for this recipe, we need 300 millilitres. So we look on the side, you might need an adult's help for this, and we tip enough cream in. And this is double cream because we are going to whip it to 300 milligrams. So out of one large container, you could do 2 pies. The recipe suggests that we use 3 overripe bananas. Now looking at these are definitely in that sort of situation. I don't want them to be going black or brown inside, but I do want them to be nice and sweet. So I'm going to take that one off there, and there's my 3 bananas. I am going to peel and slice those. The last thing that we've got now for our topping was our flake. I don't think I really need to prepare that because all I'm going to do is take it out the packet, smash it up and sprinkle it over the top. I'm now going to get on with making our caramel. So to make my caramel, I've got butter, sugar and evaporated milk. You can use cream. Now this is more advanced, so only have a go at this if you've got adult supervision, because the butter and the sugar do make a very, very hot treacle. Okay, it's molten sugar, so it will be very, very hot. So what we do is we heat up our sugar and our butter into the saucepan. Then we let that rest for a few minutes just to take some of the heat out of it. As it is cooling down, we then add the evaporated milk. It goes from being very brown and very liquid into being a lighter brown caramel. Now, you don't need to use sweetened, evaporated or condensed milk for this because we have put an awful lot of sugar into it. I'm going to get on and have a go at making this now. So you can see, and also hear, the fact that my butter's starting to melt very quickly. So into the butter, I'm going to add my cup of sugar. Now, as I've said, this will get very, very hot. So I'm stirring all the time. So the sugar is now dissolving into the molten butter, and I'm keeping it moving in the pan. That's what it looks like at the moment. This is going to take a few minutes to start coming together, and it will change colour. So the mixture of the butter and the sugar has been going for a few minutes now. It's actually stayed very light. You could have used brown sugar for this and it would go a lot darker. But I'm going to let that rest now. I'm going to take the spatula out because it is very, very hot. As you can see from the pictures that I'm showing you now. So the sugar and the butter have been resting for a few moments now. And instead of it being like liquid magna, it's actually come to form like a paste. So I'm now going to add in about 3/4 of a can of evaporated milk, and put that now back on to the heat. Whilst these ingredients are on the hob, I'm going to keep stirring them. It's really important that we make everything dissolve together and it doesn't stick to my saucepan. Again, adult help's important at this point. And we're going to keep this boiling until it reduces down into a nice thick caramel sauce that we're going to use on our pie later. So while my caramel sauce is reducing down and thickening on the hob, I'm going to get on with the next part of my recipe, which is going to be to put my digested biscuits into a bag, and I'm going to break them up and then mix them in with my butter. That's going to make the base of our banoffee pie. Now, just to reiterate, I did say that that one was available in the shops. I'll be honest with you, knowing how long that's now taking to reduce down, I probably would say for the recipe, just get yourself some of the Nestle Carnation caramel. That's ready to use out the can. It makes it a lot easier and a lot safer. So I'm going to get on with the next part of the recipe. I am checking on my caramel behind me, but that would be where you need an adult to help. Okay, we're going to make the base then. As I've already mentioned, I've put the digested biscuits into a bag. All this stops them doing is going everywhere as we start to break them up. You can use your hands to break them up. If you've got a rolling pin, you can have a little bit of fun. Just don't hit them too hard, otherwise you'll have them all over your kitchen and then you'll get into trouble. So I'm just going to make breadcrumbs out of my digested biscuits, giving them a shake, making sure all the big bits are crushed up nicely. They don't have to be really small. Sometimes it's quite nice to have a little bit of crunch in the base, so there's no problems there. After we've broken up all our biscuit, we're going to move that a couple of seconds more. There we go, there's our broken biscuit. We're going to put that into our mixing bowl. There's a couple of big bits there, so I'm just going to break those bigger bits up, just so I don't break Grandma's tooth. And this is going to be our biscuit base, remember. And then into this, I'm going to put my butter. And I'm going to give this a real good mix around, because the alternative you can do at this point, you just put it in the microwave for a couple of seconds and just let that butter melt down. Alternatively, you can melt the butter before you put it in. So I've just removed my mixture from the microwave, and I'm just going to start to coat all of these breadcrumbs in that melted butter. You can get your hands in and make sure all of those biscuits are nicely covered with the butter. It's actually a bit like a cheesecake base, this. And as you can see, it starts to form almost like a dough that you can pull apart. To prepare the base for our banoffee pie, we're going to take our biscuit and butter mixture and put it into our dish. Now, you can press this down with a spoon, but what's the fun in that when we've got fingers? So I want you to either use a spoon and press down your base, or use your fingers in there and your hands and press the base down till it covers all the bottom quite evenly. So that's my base. I'm going to put that in the fridge now for about 15 minutes, just so it sets off. With our caramel reducing down and our biscuit base in the fridge, our next job is going to be to whip our double cream. So all that cream goes into my mixing bowl, and then you can either use a normal whisk, a hand whisk, or an electric whisk. I'm going to start bringing this cream together until we get nice thick double cream. Now that is when you can almost turn the bowl upside down and it won't come out. Don't do it over your head, otherwise you'll end up with cream all in your hair. So I've been whipping my cream for a couple of minutes now, and it's just starting to thicken up. As you can see, that's now going to the consistency I'm looking for. Okay, let me see. Turn the bowl over. And it's not really moving. So that's what I'm looking for. That is now going to go into the fridge as well while I prepare my bananas. The next job I've got to do is to just slice up my 3 bananas. So I'm just going to peel my bananas. There we go. And then using my knife, I'm just going to slice through. I'm going to start bringing the pie together now. I've taken my base out of the fridge. In all honesty, I'd have liked a slightly smaller baking tin. I'd go for one more like 20 centimetres. I think this is a little tiny bit big. But we've got what we've got. So now what I'm going to do is just place all of the banana all over the biscuit. You could mash the banana. That would taste quite nice and give quite a nice texture to the pie. Now my caramel is resting at the moment. To be honest, it didn't quite come out like I was hoping it would. It wasn't quite thick enough, so I had to add a little bit more sugar than I anticipated. But it is cooling down and it will come together quite nicely. But I'm going to use now the tin of caramel that I suggested, and I'm just going to put dollops of the caramel on top of the sliced banana. Get everything out of the can, and then I'm going to spread that with the back of the spoon all over the banana. If you like, we're building up layers. So we've got our biscuit base as a layer, our banana as a layer, and then our caramel as a layer. My next layer is going to be my cream. I've got my cream now out of the fridge, and I've also collected my flake. I've given my flake, while it's in the packet, a bit of a bang to make sure it's crumbled up or flaked. See what I did there? So now what I'm going to do, using 2 spatulas, is I'm going to evenly distribute the cream across the top. Again, our next layer, and last layer really, is going to be the cream. And like we did with the caramel, I'm then going to try as much as I can to spread it evenly over the top of the pie. Starting to pick up a bit of caramel there, so I need to be a bit careful. I think we're somewhere near there. I don't want to overwork it because I don't want to end up picking all the caramel off the second layer. Oops, I've said that and I've overworked it. So my last thing is to open up my flake and just sprinkle the flake all over the top. That's used about 3/4 of a flake there. This now is going to go back into the fridge to set. Whilst the pie is setting in the fridge, I'm going to get on and clean everything that I've used. I've actually used a bit more equipment than I intended to. So I'm going to get on with the washing up with some nice hot soapy water, and then by the time that's done, hopefully we'll be able to take the pie out of the fridge, take the dish off the pie, and then have a look what it looks like. The banoffee pie's been in the fridge now for about 15 minutes. I managed to get all the washing up and the area tidied down. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run my knife as close as I can to the edge, and then I'm going to take off the surround, and there is my banoffee pie. I'll try and cut a slice. This usually goes wrong with it being live. All the way through. And you can see the layers there, our biscuit base, our banana, our caramel, and then our cream. And there's our banoffee pie. So that brings us to the end of today's session. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Don't eat it all at once because there is quite a lot of sugar in there, so be careful. Next week we'll look at another recipe, and I hope you enjoy doing this at home. Happy cooking everyone, and stay safe.